Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. Welcome to another review video for a Gaahleri product. It's something a bit different this time, not an airbrush product, it's their acrylic water-based metallic markers. Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Baron of Dice, premium wargaming dice. Over 500 styles, over 4,000 customer reviews. Welcome to the best dice on the planet. A few of you may have caught last week's review, which is also a Gaahleri product. It was a mini air compressor and airbrush starter set, and I've also reviewed quite a few of their products now over the last few months, so I received those for free. I'm able to make honest opinions of them. I've genuinely liked them or found use for all of them so far, so this is slightly different, but I just wanted to mention that at the beginning of the video. Do check out their products, do check out their website. They have lots of deals and things like that as well. I have an affiliate link below, but I'm not getting any money back from that. It's just to show that you're coming from my videos, just to be really clear at the top of the video. I'm not getting paid to do this, but I am receiving the product free. But these are different. These are really, really interesting. These have been around for a while from other companies, lots of paint markers. I know AK have brought some out recently, and a few other companies have done them as well. I've not used any of them. I've not tried any of them before, so it's not something I've approached. And I was surprised a little bit to receive these in the box with the airbrush, as I've already mentioned, but I'm really excited to try them. It's something I've had on my list for a while to try, so I've not got anything to compare it to other than my expectations of whether they should work or not, and I suppose that's what I'll be basing the review in this video around. And what do I mean by work? Well, for me, I mean that I can transfer paint from the pen easily to the miniatures that I'm painting in a way that's useful to me and is either easier or better than using a paintbrush. And so there's an actual point to owning them and having them. And that's the way I'll be looking at it. And I'm sure that many of you will think of them in the same way. Can they save me time? Can they make things easier than just using a metallic paint on a normal brush? They're currently available for $19.99, that's in dollars as far as I'm aware, on their regular website. I'm sure they will appear on their Amazon store soon, so I don't know that price in pounds or other currencies. They come in this nice little cardboard tube and nicely presented, lists on the back, all the different colours you get. So as we open up and go inside, you'll find just inside the lid, around the rim, instructions on how to use them. To start off with, you have to allow the air to get in first, or release the air, sorry, and let the paint flow before you start using it. It advises you to shake as well. All very, very simple stuff. So they look like pens, as you would expect them to. They look like metallic markers, of which there are many on the market. Nice black design with purple, matches their logo, and the colour caps match the colour paint inside, or at least it should do. We'll discover that a little bit more later on. So I want to crack on and try it straight away. And I used a couple of miniatures I was working on for a commission to show off the airbrush I reviewed for them last week, and I'm actually using the same miniatures again now. Funnily enough, I may have filmed it all at the same time, the way these things work. So you have to press down the nozzle at the start just to get some air, and then you put it down upside down and allow the paint to flow before you start working with them. So I've picked one of the golds. I can't remember what this is off the top of my head now, but that's not really important for the review. One of the first things I wanted to try is this is going to help me do things like painting studs on Space Marines, which is incredibly time consuming to make it neat with the end of your paintbrush. Sometimes it's easy to slip and just get a bit of paint in the wrong place. And it was really, really easy to dab a little bit of paint on it. Flows really, really nicely. Obviously, these are brand new full. I don't know what the experience will be like as they get towards the end and you're having to shake and hold it down and let the gravity do its work. But at the moment, very first usage, it was an extremely pleasant and easy experience. I made a small mistake and I wanted to discover whether it's easy to do a clean up with a bit of water and a normal paintbrush as I would do with normal paint, and it is no problem at all. And And then I moved on to a shoulder pad which had slightly different shaped spikes on, so it's got some harder edges. They're effectively little pyramids on there. And again, very, very easy to use. The nib is somewhere between that fine point and the flat head. You may have seen the image earlier in the video, and that's supposedly their design feature. It's a rounded nib but not a small point, which is hard to control, or flat head. Again, you can get fairly far into the detail, not as far as you could with a really pointed paintbrush of course, but I found it was pretty useful. And painters of Space Marines will know what it's like to paint the rims and edges of pads. And again, this is just, as you can see, it's as easy as it looks. Really, really easy to do, and quite nice. There are areas like there where the backpack's on and you're not going to be able to get in behind it because the pen's going to be too large. You will still have to use a paintbrush in those areas, and that means matching the colours. So that's maybe one consideration. Something that I would think about. Would I be using these for painting all of my shoulder pads, or would I be using them in different uses, maybe to highlight certain areas and maybe not put that base coat down in certain areas? But I'm going back here and I'm adding a highlight layer to the first lots of dots I did on those studs. And this is the first instance where the colour I think is a little bit different to what's on the actual clip there that you've got on the top. It's a little bit more silver in the mix, which is fine. Paints are like that as well, but it wasn't quite the colour that I wanted. But that definitely doesn't detract from the quality of the paint colour. It's really, really good. And I went on and used it in a couple of other areas as well where it did work better, and it's absolutely perfect. And again, just like the first colour we used, the paint flows nicely. It goes on extremely easily. You've got a good amount of control as well. It's only in those really hard to reach places that you might still use a paintbrush or need a paintbrush. So I tried another gold, and this one's much closer to what it matches on the pen lid itself, and it's a much more vibrant gold. And this is really good, and this is very close to the elven gold, which I'll be using in this situation. So would I be able to go back and do the highlight with this on the army? Then yeah, I think I probably could. It's a good enough match of colour. So that's just the same with any mix of paint ranges. Sometimes you need to find solutions for mixing and matching colours to make sure they match existing products. And I wouldn't expect this to match all the paints I use. It really depends on what brand you use and what colours you like to use yourself. So just like anything, it's about getting experience with the product, learning its sort of its strengths and its weaknesses and what it matches with. But this is extremely easy. Really, really easy and not messy. You don't need water to clean anything away. I can imagine, taking this downstairs and when I'm watching the telly with a tray on my lap when I'm watching telly with the wife and doing this in an evening. I wouldn't do that with paint. I'd spill it, the dog would jump up and I'd end up spilling it all over the sofa or something. But with these pens, no problem at all. It's just like using a pen, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility of where you may want to paint and get things done. And it's really cool. Moving on to a silvery colour here and just seeing what it's like for doing an edge of a blade and seeing whether you can pick it out. And you certainly can. It's quite a thick line, so maybe you'd want to use a paintbrush for some of those things. It's definitely good at doing dots and smaller highlights. I tried to do some scratches there. I'd say that the nib was probably a little bit too thick for that, so maybe they will bring out a second set with a finer tip. That would be cool as well, so you can be more variable. Again, this is the first time I'm using it. This was the first few minutes I was using them, and I only played around with them for about 20 minutes, half an hour max. So I don't expect to be an expert the first time I try and paint with a pen, which is something I've not done before. Again, really good, great at adding certain highlights in certain areas. I found myself wanting from muscle memory to do things that I would do with a paintbrush now, which would be clean my paintbrush off and maybe blend a colour out. You're not doing that with this. You are being more definitive and adding the paint where you want it. I'm sure you can have a paintbrush with you. Wet blend out is, this essentially works like a paint. So it's not saying you can't do that, but if you are going to do that, maybe you would revert to using a paintbrush anyway. So it's about finding the uses for this. And for me, things like those studs, edges of the pads and things like that would really save some time and make it easier and give you a bit more control. Just like on the edge of this, sort of the frame from the lamp on the top of the backpack here, things like that where you need a little bit of control, it's really, really good for. Same on the back here as well, just running little edges there of the exhaust on the backpack and little lines around the vials there. It's just really, really handy, but I think it's when you're trying to pick out a neat line or just a little point or something like that. I wanted to see how much it ran into the detail, and for things like the teeth here on the chainsaw, it does just pick out the edges. Some of the more finer detail, if you run it over, it just draw a line down it, so it does run into those gaps a little bit, so you can't really dry brush or over brush with it quite as much as I'd hoped, and that's good in some ways because you get the flow, but again, it's about being precise with them. Now I used it as much as I could on those miniatures without messing up a client's miniatures, which I'm not going to do. So then I sprayed one of my boards that I use for spraying black, gave it a fresh coat, and just decided to go and give it a little test for each colour, make sure that it all flowed and see how it compared with the colours on their colour guide and with the pen lids themselves. And you can see as they're going on that they're pretty close matches to what they're actually giving us their guide, which is really, really good to see. They all flow really well. It's not like with a paint sometimes one pulls a little bit or is a bit gloopy. They all seem to have the same consistency, and maybe that's because they're metallic ink, but they're just really, really good. And it's a good range. There's 10 different colours here, and each of the colours I can see some good use, especially with miniature painting, and they're a really, really cool thing to have. The range of colours is actually a little bit deeper than I expected it to be. I would have maybe expected only sort of 6 or 7 different colours, but they've given a good range of different silvers, different coppers and golds, and they blend together quite well. So I'm impressed. There's proper dull gunmetals as well as the brighter silvers, and I don't know if I would have expected that if someone said, well, here's a new range of them and they're from a new company like Gaahleri who doesn't make paint products before. I would have expected maybe they'd just be a bright silver and a gold or something like that, but they've got a really quite well-rounded metallic range just to start from. And this one is very, very dark, and doesn't really show up on the black. It's a useful colour, but again, you probably needed a lighter colour. You'll see that when I tilt the board up in a moment. But yeah, happy with them all so far. They're pretty cool. I think it's safe to say that I'm pretty happy with the way they worked. They exceeded my expectations, which were pretty low if I was honest with you. Again, a little bit like the mini airbrush compressor last week. I just figured that it wouldn't be that great and wouldn't work that well, but these are really smooth to work on, and they go over surfaces very, very easily. I was concerned that they wouldn't go over flat surfaces, and I know you dot them on and they wouldn't work very well, but they work very well. They're packaged very well. I think the choice of colours for metallics is excellent. There's a couple like the black one here that probably is a lot darker than what it shows on the pen lid then, but other than that, they're fairly close. One of the golds has got a little bit more silver in the finish, but you'll get used to that relatively quickly, and like anything, you generally test it before you put it on a miniature. But I think they've done a really, really good job with these. I'm not sure the ethos behind it, the testing, or who's made them for them, or whether they're manufacturing themselves. I really don't know any of the details behind it from a company, a relatively new company making airbrushes, but I think the product's pretty good. Like I said at the top of the video, I haven't got anything to compare it with. I've not tried any of the alternative brands for these, so my expectations were low to not really sure what to expect, but these are usable, and I think I will be using them on those difficult areas like studs and things like that. And I'm really interested to see whether they bring out any other colours. A black would be really useful, and a white would definitely be useful at times for certain hard to reach areas. I don't know how easy that will be for them to do and to make them as good as this. But I'd definitely be interested in seeing more beyond that. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments if you think that'd be useful to having more colours. I know some for weathering might be handy, so sort of oily colours and things like that as well could be useful. But just very, very happy trying them out, and they're relatively low priced as well, which is really, really cool. So I think hopefully that means that people are happy to risk trying them out. And if you're painting lots of Space Marines, or you're painting epic scale Napoleonics and you want something shiny to go and do the tops of all those bayonets or the cap badges, and you just want to dot them on, these are really good for that kind of stuff. Just gives you that control, and like I said, you could sit with them on a tray while you're watching the telly without any fear of spilling your paint or getting your paint water on the sofa or something like that, and keeping your other halves happy, and be productive, get stuff done when you wouldn't normally getting hobby done. Anything that makes the hobby easier is great.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that useful. I've been looking at trying some of the new markers that people have been trying out, different brands out there for quite a while. Never got around to it at all. So as I opened my box from Gaahleri expecting just to find an airbrush, I was really surprised to see them in there and I was really excited to try them. So hopefully what I've shared with you in the video will give you an idea whether they're for you or something you can use as well. Always good fun to try out new products. And as I said in the previous video, this brand is growing and I really like what they're doing. They're making very good quality products at good prices and things, so I quite enjoy that. You obviously will make your own mind up about whether you want to purchase them. I'm just showing you and giving you an honest review as possible. Obviously I've received these things for free, so take that as you will, but I'm not being paid by them to advertise these. They are just sending me the products. But anyway, if you are new to the channel, please do check out all the other videos. Lots of reviews, loads of hobby tips, loads of tutorials for painting and things like that, but do lots of discussion around my favorite game systems as well. So have a good look. There might be things that you like. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, drop a comment below. It really, really helps. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the video description for all my affiliate links, including that of Gaahleri as well. And it just lets them know that you've come via this video. And if you'd like to support the channel further, check out the Discord, which is free to join, and also my Patreon, which there are 4 tiers from the basic level of support right through to some tuition as well. So thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.